Peace, and welcome to another episode of the Quranic Remedies, where we spend about 15 minutes exploring a page from the Quran together and seeing how we can apply the verses to our lives. And hopefully, with God's permission, it helps us heal our brain, body, mind, and soul. So today we'll be reading from chapter 2, the cow, from verses 120 to 126. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge to God from the accursed devil. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the Merciful, the Gracious. وَلَن تَرْضَ عَنْكَ الْيَهُودُ وَلَا النَّصَارَ حَتَّى تَتَّبِعَ مِلَّتُهُمْ قُلْ إِنَّ هُدَى اللَّهِ هُوَ الْهُدَى وَلَنِ اتَّبَعْتَ أَهْوَاءَهُمْ بَعْدَ الَّذِي جَاءَكَ مِنَ الْعِلْمِ مَا لَكَ مِنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ وَلِيٍّ وَلَا نَصِيرٍ. And never will the Jews nor the Christians be pleased with you unless you follow their creed. Say, indeed the guidance of God is the guidance, and if you follow their inclination after what has come to you of the knowledge, you would have no guardian nor helper against God. الذين آتيناهم الكتاب يتلونه حق تلاوته أولئك يؤمنون به ومن يكفر به فأولئك هم الخاسرون. Those to whom we have given the book which they recite its true recitation, those will believe in it, and whoever disbelieves in it, then they are those who are the losers. يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأني فضلتكم على العالمين. O children of Israel, remember my blessings which I have bestowed upon you, and that I have favored you over all people. واتقوا يوما لا تجزي نفس عن نفس شيئا ولا يقبل منها عدل ولا تنفعها شفاعة ولا هم ينصرون. So beware of a day no soul will be rewarded by another soul at all, nor will amendment be accepted from it, nor will intercession benefit it, nor will they be helped. وإذا ابتلى إبراهيم ربه بكلمات فأتمهن قال إني جاعلك للناس إماما قال ومن ذريتي قال لا ينال عهدي الظالمين. And when Abraham was tested by his Lord with words and he fulfilled them, he said, Indeed, I will make you a leader for mankind. He said, and for my descendants? He said, my agreement will not reach the transgressors. وإذ جعلنا البيت مثابة للناس وأمنا واتخذوا من مقام إبراهيم مصلى وعهدنا إلى إبراهيم وإسماعيل أن طهرا بيتي للطائفين والعاكفين والركع السجود. And when we made the house a resort for mankind and security. So take a place of prayer from the place of Abraham. For we entrusted to Abraham and Ishmael that purify my house for those who roam and those who abide and bow down in prostration. وإذ قال إبراهيم رب اجعل هذا بلدا آمنا وارزق أهله من الثمرات من آمن منهم بالله واليوم الآخر قال ومن كفر فأمتعه قليلا ثم أضطره إلى عذاب النار وبئس المصير. And when Abraham said, Lord, make this a safe land and provide its people with fruits for whoever of them believes in God in the last day, he said, and for whoever disbelieves, for I will let him enjoy for a while, then I will force him to the punishment of the fire, and wretched is the destiny. Sadaqallahu al-Azim. God, the Amazing, the Merciful, said the truth. Now, one quick note is that the translator here, Shu'aib Abdullahi from the greatquran.com, he opted to use the word enjoyment for the word umatti'ahu, mata'. Here he opted to use the word enjoyment, which we will see, I will let him enjoy for a while. Now, yes, one of the definitions of this word, which I find is more in general Arabic, is enjoyment. When someone is yatamatta, he's enjoying himself, right? But in the Quran, in the context of the Quran, I find that the word almost in every single instant or in every single position, it's coming as in provisions from your Lord or your possessions, but things or sustenance from your Lord. So God, in a sense, is saying that this world is just material things. They're just things that you're taking for a little time. So here in this general context, in this verse before we discuss it, God is saying that whoever disbelieves in God in the last day and he's in that safe city, they will only get a few provisions in life and then they go to hell. So they're not going to have a very fruitful life. Now, these verses are carrying on with the comparison with the Jews and the Christians to the believers, and sometimes God is addressing the Jews and the Christians together. Now, God is giving you a rule, and when a rule is given to you in the book or even in nature, the rule cannot be broken as long as all the factors remain the same. So God said that without technology and without like outside help, if you as a human being jump off the fourth floor of a building, gravity is going to do its part and you're going to fall to your death. Presumably that the fourth floor kills you. And if you repeat that 100 times, it doesn't matter how you jump and it doesn't matter how you approach that thing, or if you spread your hands really far or you like try to go into a fetal position as you're falling, you're going to fall and die. That is the rule that God has written. Now, God is giving you a rule in the book that the Jews and the Christians will not be pleased with you. They will not be happy with you. They will not take you as a good friend. Yes, as long as you're not discussing religion and theology with them, just mentioning nice parts here and there and getting along with them, you might feel that they're accepting of you. But when it comes down to the true nature of it, when you are put in a setting where it is of a theological nature, or if you bring up God in the Quran to them, you will see that at this point they are not accepting of you, that they're not your friends. And because you're bringing these topics up, if there is a crowd and you're within the crowd, you're going to feel like an outsider. They're not going to really be accepting of you until you say, you know what? I agree with you guys. Whatever nonsense you guys came up about God, it's suiting me. It's making some, I don't know how, but it's making some logical sense to me after the truth that has been revealed to me, and I'm accepting what you're saying. And at that point, they rejoice because they have now beaten your system rather than they have gained somebody new. To them, it's about beating the system rather than gaining someone new. And this is the same now with the groups that came after the Jews and the Christians, primarily the Sunni and Shia. So the people who are adhering to taking the guidance from the Quran, you'll see that a lot of people will, they might be friendly to you. They might talk to you nicely. They might sit and talk a little bit of theology, but they're not accepting of you because in the back of their mind, you're a disbeliever of whatever they believe in. You're an infidel. But because it's a rule of God, it goes both ways. You're not going to be accepting a Jew or a Christian or a Sunni or a Shia or any other creed other than what God has revealed to you in the Quran. You're not really going to be accepting of that person in that sense. You might enjoy his company, you might like them, you might be friendly with them, you might get along and do some businesses with them. But you're not going to fully accept them as a person that you will find close or they're part of you. And that's something that you always have to keep in mind. That just because you're getting along with a group of people does not necessitate that they've accepted you or that you're friends. Just because you're cordial with some people, you have to be cordial with people, by the way, even if it's your enemy. But does not necessitate, nor does it equal that person is accepting of you. And when things get tough, the majority will either turn on you or act like they didn't even know you at that point. They're not going to be there when things matter. But the only entity that will always be there when things matter is your Lord. Okay, now, the next verse, this is a very important verse. I read this verse in two ways. Yes, the people who have who read the book the way that it was supposed to be read, with its due diligence and its due respect, will believe in it. And whoever disbelieves in it, those are the losers. But at the same time, the book is calling for you to read it often and consistently, and to keep reading it and giving it its due diligence when it's being read. This is the beauty about the book that you have been given. It's a book that is a book for life, that you should be studying it your whole life. Even yesterday, reading this same chapter, which I've read many times, I've came to a point where it solved another, it explained to me something that I had a question in a different chapter. Because you're always learning something new in this book. This is how you find that safety, that security, that amin, which is where the word yu'minuna bih, they believe in it because they find security in it. That's the beauty about this book. There's always a lesson. And you can see I'm not talking about history most of the time with you. And I'm not talking on certain things that you might hear often. I'm finding life lessons, general concepts that have been generalized for me to apply in my life. And then I can find my way through life because of these lessons that I'm learning from the Quran. And this is why I take so much time in reading it, because it's always a new journey every time you open a new book. Now, there's a lot of people that claim that they believe in the Quran, they follow the Quran, and they try to maybe debate with me, or they're trying to teach me a concept that's in the Quran, which is clearly getting beat by the Quran, that they're following their assumption. But then I ask them, like, how many times have you read the Quran? Oh, well, maybe one time. I yet to finish it. Okay, so why are you going around explaining to people what the concept of religion is if you barely gave the book its due diligence? Maybe you're believing in yourself rather more than believing that the book is teaching you. Maybe you're trying to tell the book what to teach you. And that's a concept that you have to understand. I'm not a person that is sitting here and talking about the Quran because I read it once or twice. In fact, I read it a lot. I can't stop reading it. And my friends that are very close to me, it's the same thing. Like in our prayers, we'll recite verses, chapters after chapters, because we're constantly thinking and pondering about it. And that's something that is a proof to you that you believe in the book. So if someone says that they believe in the book and have a problem reciting it, then they really don't believe in the book. They just believe in it because their dad told them to believe in it. There isn't a concept of actually loving the book. Now, there's something here that is very interesting. Prophet Muhammad stood in the middle of a crowd in a desert, right, where people are listening to him. He claimed that he was a prophet, but the way that he was talking, if someone talked in that manner, then he is obviously putting himself in a certain position, which is something that the children of Israel know very well. And it's expressed in this verse, which has been repeated earlier from an earlier episode or an earlier page, when God says, Ya bani Israel uzkuru ni'mati allati an'amtu alaykum. O children of Israel, remember my blessing, which I have bestowed upon you, and that I favored you over all people. Prophet Muhammad is talking in the first person. Prophet Muhammad is sitting as a representation, as a voice for God. That is something that the prophets do, that they have the words of God within them. But the children of Israel, the rabbis, the people that know the book very well, they speak about God in the first person. So that's something that is very aware to the children of Israel. So here they know that Prophet Muhammad has a little bit more knowledge than the average Goyim or the average Gentile, is because the way he was expressing himself. So they knew there was a connection with God, right? And whoever turns away, well, then the day of judgment is sufficient for them. Now, we get on an individual and Salamun ala Ibrahim, peace upon Abraham. Abraham is our role model. Abraham is mentioned here in a way where you clearly see it. God has tested him. God has proven that like Abraham, passed the test. And God is telling him directly, I am going to make you a leader, an imam, a prototype, an example for the rest of mankind. And then later in the Quran, God is telling us to follow the way of Abraham, follow the creed of Abraham. So it's not about how Abraham used to dress or Abraham used to sleep or how he used to talk to, well, not talking is important, but I mean like what he used to eat or the culture of Abraham, because we don't have that. But what we have is his mentality and his reason and his logic and his style of approaching problems with the relationship of God is what got him through life, what got him close to God. So if you follow the examples that you find about Abraham in the Quran, you will understand that this life starts to answer you back. And God is answering you back because you are putting the correct input from your heart, knowing that you are a servant, not a person that's dictating this reality. And God answers you back. Now, especially the fact that a lot of people, if not most of the people that are going to watch this, are a child of Abraham. God has promised you part of this leadership and authority and responsibility that Abraham said, I will take upon me. And notice how Abraham went right away and he asked about his descendants. Because to him, he knows that after he is in the grave or he was taken away from the world, how is he going to serve his Lord other than what he has left behind, which is his kids? So he wanted to make sure his kids are also going to be leaders. Because in his mind, from what I understand, Abraham knows that if a person is made as a leader in the name of God, right, then that person will automatically be in the favor of God. Therefore, he has to be worshiping and dedicated to God. And God clarifies this by saying, yeah, and whoever transgresses, then they're not part of the agreement. Because God did not guide, nor will he put a transgressor as a leader for mankind. He could be a leader for the devils, but he's not going to be a leader for mankind. And this is something that is very amazing in the way that God even answered that dua. God didn't say, yes, I will make your descendants leaders for mankind, the way that he expressed it in the Quran. He just carried on from what the dua is saying. So it is understood that the supplication that Abraham did was accepted. And that's an amazing style for you to find your faith and believe in God. Because God doesn't necessarily have to say yes for you to be like, oh, well, is it a yes or no? And he said, well, from the transgressors, my promise will not be fulfilled on them. So, okay, well, is that a yes or a no, God? Well, it's kind of obvious at this point. Use your reason and use your logic. You don't need to be spoon-fed everything. And Abraham understood right away. Now, because of Abraham in the position that he's sitting in God's eyes, because Abraham's thoughts were pure, there was no inclination to upset God. He was doing exactly what God has told him. There's the story of Abraham when he even got a dream to sacrifice his child, and he knew that dream was God. He didn't sit there and he goes, well, is that dream from the devil? Was that dream from myself? Would God really want me to sacrifice my kid? Well, what about this? Maybe I shouldn't do it. There was no doubt. Oh, okay, well, hey, child, I had a dream that I have to sacrifice you. What do you say? Well, let's do it. That's a different mentality than us, because everyone hesitates. Even in the story with Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, they say that the first day when Gabriel came and said to him, read, he had a shock where he ran home and he was a little bit in shock and terrified, right? So there was a little bit of doubt, what was going on? But Abraham wouldn't have had that doubt. I'm not bringing Prophet Muhammad down in any way, shape, or form. He's better than all of us alive today. But I'm saying that he's not to the level of Abraham. Okay, and I'm not making comparison. I believe in all of them, but God is telling you Abraham has been favored over all of the world, all of mankind. And God is not oppressive. This is something that you have to understand. If God is favoring somebody over everybody else, it's because that person deserves that position. God is not going to take the third or fourth best and put him as a leader. God is going to take the best and put him as a leader because that's the truth and that's what's fair. Imagine if I am technically the employee of the month, right? But then the boss puts the fifth person or the sixth person on the list as the employee of the month. Well, at that point, I've been oppressed, because it's by the books and by the scale and by everything that is a way to measure on who is the best person in that position. I have been winning. So why is someone else taking the title that I have earned, right? So when God is saying that Abraham is the leader for mankind, there's nobody that deserves that title other than Abraham. Yes, Adam was the first human being, but Abraham is the best human being that will ever live on earth before and after. So on the day of judgment, if there's a scorecard of the top 10 people that lived in the world, Abraham's number one. But yes, I'm not saying that he's that he has within my eyes more favored than Prophet Muhammad and Moses. No, I'm not making that comparison. I'm not saying that they have God said that the prophets have different levels, but to me, I value them all the same. They're all like father figures to me. They are father figures to me. So for those people that want to put other individuals as that they have accomplished more than Abraham, then those people have no idea what they're talking about. Now, one thing that is also pretty cool here. So God says in one of the verses that those who hear the words and follow the best of it, those are the people of knowledge or certainty or of understanding, the ulul albab. When God says the word yasjudun, sajada, right? Prostrate. There isn't one way of prostrating, but there is the best way as physical prostration, which is you get down on your knees and you prostrate, the way that we know. But sajada means bow down, right? In a normal sense. There's a verse that says, well, why is it when the Quran is recited to them, they don't bow down? So are you expected to bow down every time the Quran is recited? Well, technically, if you have the ability, yeah, you should, because now you're following the best of it. But this, me nodding my head down and looking on the floor, and while I'm showing humiliation, that's a form of bowing down. And the other thing is, when a concert is over or an artist has finished his thing on the stage, you know how they bow down? They don't go on the floor, but they bow down to the audience, which the Sunnis say that that's ruku'ah. That's actually a form of sujood. That isn't ruku'ah. Because the reason why I'm bringing this up, if you look at the verse here, God has put them side by side, the word ar-ruk'a is sujood. He didn't say ar-ruk'a was sujood. No, ar-ruk'a is sujood. So those who are kneeling, because the form of kneeling is you're on your knees, and you go from your knees down to prostrating or bowing down. So that's one action. The whole concept of you doing the ruku' where you're just bending your back, that's actually a form of sujood. That is a form of bowing down. Yes, there's a better one. And as I said, bowing your head down. And these is a form of sujood, or bowing down your head is a form of bowing down. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because sometimes you can fulfill the verse in a very, very detailed manner and the best way you can. And sometimes you are forced to fulfill the verse with something that is satisfactory enough. Okay, so keep that in mind. If you have the ability to go above and beyond from what you understand, you should do it. And whenever you have to do something and the only thing that's available to do is the minimum, you should do it. Because if you don't do it at that point, you're going against what God has prescribed as the best thing for you as a human being, which is outlined here in the Quran. So this is something that we talked about in regards to the prayer, right? Now, the safe city. It's very simple. God has told us to take an approach, or to take from the position of Abraham a point of connecting to God, right? So in English, it was translated, so take a place of prayer from the place of Abraham. So the position of Abraham, or where he lived, that should be a connecting place to you, to God, because Abraham is your example. He's not your role model. Oh, well, he's a role model, but he's not your idol. He's not somebody that you need to see every word that he wrote. You don't need to dress like him. No, his mentality is accepted. So take that mentality to apply it to you subjectively, to what is being thrown at you in your life. The journey of Prophet Muhammad is different than the journey of you. So the way that he approached the Quran is going to be different than the way that you have approached. He's living in a desert 1400 years ago. He has people around him that have a different mentality than the people around you. Yes, at the end of the day, you are going to find a very similar moral and character that is of what the Prophet used to follow. But the way you're approaching problems is different. Here's a question for all of you who claim that they're Sunni or Shia. If you are you're so hell-bent on holding this so-called tradition, that this sunnah that has been presented upon you from other people, if Prophet Muhammad alayhi salawatu wasalam was alive today, would he live the same sunnah? No. So why are you living that sunnah that he wouldn't adhere to in this day and age, because time has changed? So this is something for you to think about. And God here proves again the way that he's accepting, in the final verse, God is accepting the dua of Abraham by not saying yes or no. God is carrying on from what the person has said. So yes, whatever you said has been accepted, and here's a condition. So we are making a covenant here. This is how it works with God. God, please make this land clean, or keep this land safe, and give their people the food, and keep them safe, and feed them. And whoever disbelieves, I will put them in hell. Okay, that's the covenant. That's the promise. Done. And now you signify that to people, and people should stick to what has been said. I apologize today. This episode was a little longer. It's because there's a lot. There's a lot in these verses, and these short verses that we covered, where it's action filled. There's a lot that we can talk about too. Even like purification was mentioned here, about purifying the house of God, or the sanctuary of God for people, because purification is important. Because the devil is wanting to keep you dirty inside and externally, while God is purifying you internally and externally. And one is easier than the other. And that one's actually, the purification is easier than keeping yourself dirty, because nobody's happy when things are dirty around you. So it's not easier for your mentality when you're dirty. And there are some things that we are going to cover about purification that's coming up. But I hope you guys are enjoying this. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise to God, the Lord of the worlds. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace and blessings upon you all.